sit in NYC airport. Max thought watching the boarding process for his flight home to Charlotte was not a good way to spend an evening. Maxim and his sisters operated a small pharmaceutical company their father founded decades previously. His father invented several valuable but rarely used medications that made the company wealthy but limited its growth. Max had spent the last few days in New York arranging the sale of the company to a major pharmaceutical company after his parents died. Max and his lawyers and brokers concluded the sale today and left the paperwork to the lawyers. Max prayed he would go home tonight, but it appeared unlikely. The last flight to Charlotte was full, and he was third on the wait list. He didn't call Camilla because he didn't know what to say. He thought about the agreement and the money he and his sisters would share while drinking his second gin and tonic at the bar, watching the gate. Something over $10 million and a well-paid move with Big Pharma meant a new lifestyle for him and Camille. Their twin girls had left the nest or were leaving. Both were Duke Juniors, where tuition was killing him. This will change after the pharmaceutical business purchase concludes. As boarding ended, gate agents helped the remaining passengers onto the plane. A minor miracle occurred. The boarding sign changed and Max noticed his name on the waiting list. He threw the money on the bar, waved to the bartender, who gave him a thumbs up, grabbed his briefcase and duffel bag, and rushed out. The gate agent gave him his boarding permit and promptly informed him and two other passengers that the four who had checked in remotely had not arrived. Seats were provided. Max hurried down the plane with his new friends and found a first-class seat at the gate. He saw a favorable sign. "I'm on the fleet. In first class, home a day early." This may indicate the drug transaction closes. The flight attendant inquired if he needed a drink as they taxied to the runway after the boarding door closed. After drinking another GMT, he fell asleep dreaming of a future with Camilla and enough money to constantly fly first class. Landing jolted him awake. He took a taxi home from the stand. He took his pickup truck to the airport a few days before. His exhaustion and inebriation made it too late to call Camille to pick him up. Since they lived a few miles from Charlotte, the cab ride was lengthy enough for him to sleep again. His driver had to wake him up when they arrived. Max paid him, tipped generously, and got slowly out of taxi. A long, busy day and evening. He was thinking about sleeping with Camilla as the taxi left, and he turned toward the home. The sight froze him and woke him up. His side of the garage had a gold Mercedes in the driveway. He thought all Mercedes were trendy, even the automobile. Max stood there for some minutes in the dark house after midnight. He spoke to Camille from his lawyer's office about midday. She didn't mention late-night guests. He tried not to think about the unfathomable and imagined a happy scenario where he could snuggle with warm, drowsy Camille in minutes. He gently approached the garage house passageway entrance, since his thoughts didn't work that way. He unlocked it, entered the peaceful house, and quietly proceeded through the kitchen and up to his and Camilla's bedroom. Max entered the bedroom, because the door was open. Then it closed. It had no other expression. He lost consciousness, respiration, and heartbeat. He witnessed the unspeakable. Camille slept naked. She lay on her side of the bed with one arm across the sleeping man, who smiled faintly. Max stood there for what seemed like an age, but his brain finally worked again. He gazed at Camilla's hand across him again, and they both snored. Max was heartbroken. Camille's snoring entertained him till tonight. She snored softly. Max imagined her snoring suggested she felt comfortable in the lovely slumber given by sharing a bed and life with him, almost purring. He typically fell asleep to the pleasant purring sound. That's it. He would never sleep close to her or hear her snore again. Max thought again after his heartbreak. He spotted the man's neatly folded clothes. Lying on Max's 100 times sat chair. Burning wrath erupted inside Max. He raised his pants, took out his wallet and car keys, and thought. He thought he could beat the asshole with the tennis racket from the bedroom closet. He could beat Camille. These activities may gratify Max in the short term, but give him issues in the long term. Another notion came to him. As the idea grew, he snapped incriminating photos using his phone. Max gathered asshole's clothes and shoes after shooting pictures. The asshole was huge. Max was 160 pounds and 5'5". Asshole looked at least 4 or 5 inches taller and 50 pounds. A tennis racket may not have been a smart decision in the short term. Max held his clothes and shoes and looked at his wife, his loving, cherished wife, the mother of his darling daughters, and hardened his heart against the love that had driven him for over 20 years. He left the bedroom without crying and down the stairs. The Mercedes doors opened when the key fob beeped. Max slid into the driver's seat with his briefcase and duffel bag. Before the Benz, he hated fancy automobiles, but now he enjoyed them. He took off after figuring out the controls and gearing up. Max stopped to examine Asshole's wallet after a mile. Regular stuff. Some cash. Asshole's Mercedes dealership senior sales manager business cards listed him as Franklin Thompson. A Charlotte-based driver's license. Max thought asshole could bring trouble with family there, naturally for asshole. And possibly Camille. However, Max was fatigued and went to the nearest motel to sleep. Camilla Tronder was cautious. She was not as brilliant as her husband, Max, but her caution allowed her affair with Franklin Thompson to extend over 5 months without Max discovering it. She imagined Max was in New York while she slept with Franklin the next morning. Possibly not as good as Max, he was good in bed but couldn't compete with his husband out of bed. Too much like a car salesman, she thought, deciding to stop this romance. Franklin was overprotective. She let him stay the night, but it was the final time. She wanted to marry Max and have a strange man in their bed for life. Even though Max will never know, it was insulting. She would call Franklin later today to gently but firmly end their romance. Then she showered. Franklin reappeared from the shower with a towel around his waist as she dressed in the bedroom. He paused and questioned, "Camilla, where did you take my clothes?" "What?" Not a thing moved. "This evening, where are you going? I folded it on this chair, but no clothing. Did you take her to the guest room? She must be here." "Aye," he mumbled, walking down the corridor to the guest room and returning immediately. Nothing there. Nothing here. As he sought to understand his clothing departure, his speech slowed. "Perhaps you left everything downstairs when we came in the evening," Camilla asked anxiously, assuming they had drank too much the night before. Franklin said, "I'm sure I didn't, but I'll go look leaving the bedroom." His return was swift, rushing up the steps. "My car and clothes aren't downstairs, Camilla. Someone stole my clothes and automobile at night." "Damn, what's up?" "Sorry, what?" Camilla sought to understand Franklin. How did his clothes and car vanish? The two spent the night at home. Might someone have entered? Camilla fell onto the bed. Franklin asked, "What? What?" Camilla struggled to breathe and talk as she tried to respond. "Franklin, what if Max?" She finally asked. "What if he returned from New York while we slept? What if he stole goods including your car?" Franklin collapsed on Camille's bed, saying, "Shit. You must locate him. He may be in New York, but a burglar has broken in. We must call the police. I need my stuff and car back. Damn automobile. If we call the cops, they'll ask who owns it, in my wife's name. Due to damn taxes, I." As he pictured a bad to disastrous future, his speech slowed, calling his workplace. His secretary must know where he is when she arrives early. Camille called Max's office on her phone. Max's secretary answered before 8 o'clock. "Can I help at Max Tronder's office?" "Camille, hi Sheila. It's early and I don't know where Max is. Do you hear from him after yesterday night's silence?" "Camilla, it's early and the New York crew worked late yesterday. I expect a late start today. Max and I talked around 6 before I headed home. He indicated they were making progress and could agree today. Glad to hear it. He's in NYC, right?" "He is, no doubt. I expect to hear from him when they return to the lawyer's office." "Should I ask him to call you?" "Yes, please. Only if he has time. I understand the significance of this deal." "Well done." Camille turned to Franklin after hanging up. "Max is still in New York, therefore we should report a break-in and auto theft to 911. We tell them what?" "Camilla, that your lover's clothes and car were taken from your bedroom and driveway?" "What the fuck? We're doomed." "Okay, I understand. Think about it. Could I take you home and leave you? Dress up and report thefts. Like things happened there. Your wife was taking the kids to school. Maybe you don't report stolen clothes. This may be harder to explain than a car theft. Yes, but yesterday I told my wife I was traveling to Atlanta for a Mercedes S-Class meeting and wouldn't be home until midday." "Okay, we can wait till noon when you'll be back. You drove home. Your automobile was taken while you were at home, since you left your keys in the car for a quick stop before the dealership. It might work if I say I left my wallet in the car and it got taken. We can stay a few hours. Maybe we'll need another shower. Maybe together." "Okay, Franklin. Yes, I need to call work for a sick leave." A modest law company employed Camille as a paralegal. The work was fine yet dull. After calling from the corridor, she found Franklin back in bed in the bedroom. After considering Max and her recent breakup, she declined. "Franklin," she said without taking off her clothes, "I think it's time to terminate this. We had a good run, but you know it could have been Max last night. We're lucky. It was actually a bad guy. Let's find some clothes and maybe go to some place to eat for breakfast." Franklin looked at her, thought about trying to convince her. But in the end he realized that she was right. They were lucky, but they shouldn't go too far. Yes, and with an inner smile, he remembered that another attractive middle-aged mother often came to the car dealership. "Okay, I agree. It was a good run. So how about some clothes?" It turned out to be not so simple. Franklin was 50 pounds heavier and 4 inches taller than Max. Camille finally found a pair of tattered old sweatpants that seemed to fit Franklin after making a few V-cuts at the waist. She then tied some strings around his waist to hold up his sweatpants. She also found a sweatshirt that had turned pink when it was sloppily washed in the washing machine. She trimmed the sleeves and cut some more at the armholes, and Franklin had his outfit. She wanted to make a comment about the clown's clothes, but she just smiled slightly when she saw his face. They decided to watch TV until it was time to go to Franklin's house. Earlier that morning, around the time Franklin discovered his clothes and car were missing, Max pulled into the driveway of the address listed on Franklin's driver's license. There's a nice house, a small bicycle leaning against the wall of the garage. Max sat in the car for a while thinking. Wondering but still without tears, his night at the motel passed quickly, and he didn't go out for a run until dawn. He was surprised that he didn't feel worse. Perhaps he was still in shock. He walked to the front door, taking out Franklin's wallet with his driver's license, rang the bell, and a young woman who looked to be in her 20s, attractive but a little frazzled, opened the door. Max was wearing a suit that he had bought the day before in New York, a white shirt that now looked rumpled, and no tie. He didn't look his best, but he hoped he didn't look threatening. He held up Franklin's driver's license so the woman could see it and pointed at the gold Mercedes. Before he could say anything, the woman slammed the door in his face, but then opened it again a few seconds later, holding her cell phone in her hand. I have 911 on my phone, and I'm ready to press send if you don't tell me my husband is okay. Ma, I have a photo on my phone of your husband and my wife in bed at night, naked and fast asleep. To be honest, I don't think there's anything wrong with your husband or with my wife either. If you want to call 911, call 911, and I'll just wait in the car. They looked at each other for a moment until her face fell, and she opened the door to let him in. She began speaking when they heard Mommy from the kitchen. Please wait. I'll return. She retreated. Heading to Max's imagined kitchen. Her and one of the kids' voices were heard. She brought him coffee. Hope you drink black coffee. I must prepare and take the kids to school. I'm afraid I trust you more than my husband. Stay here till I return. Then we can chat. Fine, Max said okay. Unfortunately, we're in the same boat. He sat in the living room when a woman with 2 children arrived. She called him Dad's friend and left with them. Max sat there, drank bad coffee, and considered phoning his workplace, but he didn't. The woman returned and silently raced up the living room stairs. After a few minutes, she returned with combed hair and tinted lips. To Max, she offered her hand. She shook hands and introduced herself. I apologize for the uproar. I am Molly Thompson, married to Franklin Thompson, who is connected with your wife. Max laughed at her remark, which felt fantastic. You're right about everything happening now. I'm Max Tronder, and my wife is Camilla. He told Molly what happened last night, causing her to cry. As I divorce Camilla, I'm sure the photos will help me achieve a fair settlement. In case you need them, I may send them to your phone. I think I should have them, Molly said, staring at Max impassively. She told him not to send them to me, so he put down his phone. I'll never forget those photographs if I see them. Will you retain them and let me call you if I need them? Of course. Max said that he wouldn't remain at his current work or in his current house for long. Share my lawyer's contact info. You can always contact him for divorce or photographic aid. Molly replied, thanks. But what should we do now? Are you returning the car? Will you await Franklin and beat him? You saw him. Despite gaining weight, he's enormous. He was scheduled to stay overnight in Atlanta for a vehicle meeting yesterday. He should return this afternoon. I've never driven a Mercedes, but I like this automobile. I might keep it till someone makes me return it. Your jerk husband may have. Molly laughed and Max joined in, needing all the release they could get. Franklin or jackass, put more depreciation in my name since I drive more than he does for tax reasons. I own this automobile, so I can issue you a driving permit and the police can phone me to confirm if you get stopped over, she said thoughtfully. Max liked the idea, but Molly was still planning, so he didn't answer. Another thing, she said. Recent break-ins have plagued our area. You have Franklin's clothes and keys. If our backyard key is missing when he arrives, he may break in. He will draw police attention if our security system is on instant alert. I think I'm falling in love again, Molly. Wonderful you. Okay, relax. Franklin can wait to return until the kids and I get home from school this afternoon. But I can take them to the park. Give him time to get into further problems. Please notify me. Especially if he gets into police trouble. Call me to get your car back. Please don't get into problems. We finish. Both you and I must leave. Max left in a gorgeous gold Mercedes, wondering how much it would cost in a different color. He figured Molly would fetch the secret key, set the alarm, and leave for the day once she gave him the permission sheet. Camille and Franklin reached Franklin's residence at midday. Camilla dropped him off and ran off, apparently to escape infection. Franklin went to his front door, wondering if Molly was home but also terrified she could be. Of course it was locked. He ran around the house to the backyard rock with the spare key. The stone vanished. Oh shit, he mumbled, contemplating breaking into his house from the back. Back door was locked when he tried to unlock it. He realized he had to force his way in. He considered breaking one of the back wall windows. He paused at the family room window. Breaking the largest back window would allow him more room to enter the residence. He studied the window after breaking a branch from the tree he was trimming. He had to break the window glass to go in since he was barefoot. He brought 2 chairs from the back porch to the window. He believed he could climb over the chairs to avoid the glass and then be careful in the living room. A few deep breaths and he prepared to leave. Franklin's branch broke the family room window with a satisfying crack. Then, unhappily for Franklin, the house alarm siren wailed. The police cruiser occurred to drive down his street, making things worse, since Molly had reported prospective break-ins to the local police that morning. Franklin grumbled, trying to climb over the chairs to enter the house and disable the security system, but he was too slow. Stop, police, and carefully leave the house with your hands up. Franklin noticed 2 pistol-wielding policemen behind him. He followed orders and sliced his legs slightly as he got from the seats and backed away. He said, "Officers, I can explain," as one tied him behind his back. Instead of explaining, the policeman recited his rights. The officer inquired if he wanted to speak. "I broke into my house to collect clothing and phone my office because I don't have a key." Franklin's tracksuit may have reminded the police of clown clothing, so one questioned him for identification. "No, not now. Since I lost my automobile and clothes, I need to get inside to obtain some actual clothes." "Sir, you lost your car." "How?" "I stayed at a friend's place last night and the car was gone this morning." "Just wasn't. Anyone reported a weird disappearance? Maybe you left it in a bar?" Franklin was stuck. He didn't want to admit where he was or why he didn't report the automobile missing, but he also didn't want to be jailed for breaking into his home. Handcuffs were uncomfortable. Then he thought of a possible solution. "Call my wife. She recognizes me. Perhaps you could take me to my office. Someone there can help me get clothes." He'd endure a lot at the dealership, but it was better than jail. One officer called Molly after taking her number from Franklin. Franklin overheard the cops talk. "Madame, this is Charlotte Police Department Riles." Present at the address, he addressed, "This man claims to be your husband. He tried to break into your residence after losing clothes." "Yes, ma'am." "No, ma'am." "Yes, ma'am." "Of course we will." "Thank you, ma'am." His attention returned to Franklin. "The woman says her spouse is in Atlanta and anyone who breaks into her house is a burglar. She wants us to imprison you and toss away the key, but..." Franklin was almost crying when the police took him to the station and Camilla in their patrol car. She arrived at work half a day late, but she will make up for it. Since she hadn't heard from Max, she contacted his cell phone but got no answer. She called his office again. "Hi Sheila, Camilla. Since Max hasn't responded, I'm worried. And you?" "I have nothing new. I suppose he's still in New York with the lawyers, but he'd call. You seem worried, so I'll call there to check on him and call you back in a few minutes." "Fine. Thank you, Sheila. World's best secretary, you." A few minutes later, Camilla was called back. "Hi Camilla, Sheila. One law office secretary stated Max left late yesterday to catch the last flight to Charlotte. I contacted Max on his cell phone to check on him. I spoke with him and he requested me to inform him he would call later." "Fine. Thank you, Sheila." Camille disconnected, thanking. A snake grew in her stomach. Max hung up after speaking to Sheila. He drove a gold Mercedes to meet a divorce counsel recommended by his longtime business lawyer, Fred Thomas. He trusted his business counsel and believed his divorce lawyer would too. "Please sit, Mr. Thronder. Secretary Miss Reinhardt will be with you in a minute." He relaxed at the lawyer's office. No fancy furniture, but not cheap. A fat 50-year-old woman with dyed red hair entered the waiting room before he could worry. "Mr. Thronder?" She introduced herself as Anna Reinhardt after Max stood up and nodded. "Fred called to tell me to take care of you well. Let's discuss your case at my office." Max followed her into a pleasant but not lavish office, took coffee from the secretary, and narrated his story. He sought a divorce from his adulterous wife, and to protect his assets, notably the money from selling his firm and his sisters. Despite thinking Anna would laugh, he skipped the golden Mercedes narrative. "Max, may I call you that?" He nodded, "And I'm Anna. Good news. Fairly excellent news for your position. Fred said your sisters and you owned your company before you married. Your shares are independent property. That instance, your wife has no rights to your firm shares or sale earnings. You must maintain the shares and sale proceeds separate from your wife's joint account. This is true? I guess so. How about our home, retirement accounts, etc.? Not good news for you. Your salary is substantially larger than hers, thus you will pay child support for years. Increasing alimony may prevent retirement account contributions. Though unpleasant, the short-term pain prevents worse. Sharing retirement funds decades later. Your kids are in college, therefore no child support. You probably don't mind paying for their education bills. Yes, that's okay. How about the house? Choose what you and your wife desire. You may sell it and share the money, or one of you could buy the other's portion at appraised value. Last night's sight made me dislike this house. Camilla cannot afford my part, therefore I must sell. I can do the papers this way. I can deliver the divorce petition tomorrow early if you prefer, as it's routine, so we can serve her tomorrow afternoon. A solution could be suggested next week. Wow, that's fast. Mr. Thronder, Max, listen. If you and your wife could use some counseling or time, I'm just surprised. Happy less than 24 hours ago. I couldn't wait to inform my wife about the corporate sale when I got home. I'm sitting here discussing divorce, but we must move forward. I'll resolve this. Okay, but if you change your mind, just call me and we can work things out. Max thanked her, paid the advance, and left the office. He walked back to the gold Mercedes wondering a bit about what was going on with that asshole he'd seen last night. And that reminded him that he had told his secretary that he would call Camille. Camille answered the phone in her office at the law firm where she worked. Camilla, this is Max. You called and looked for me. Max, thanks for calling. I missed you. You, where are you? I'm here in Charlotte, Camille. When did you get back? The snake deep in her belly raised its head. Last night, Camilla, I came back last night. And the snake bit, a little harsh. Camilla leaned back in her chair. She knew she had to carry on this conversation, but she could barely breathe, let alone speak. Camilla, I'm hanging up now. No, Max, no, she managed to squeeze out. Please, please, can we meet somewhere? I need to see you and just see you for a few minutes. Max hesitated. This woman was his love. The mother of his daughters, the most important person in his life. For over 20 years. Okay, Camilla, the Center Cafe is at 6. The snake bit even harder. Camilla had to agree. But the Center Cafe was the place where she and Max had met a long time ago, both of them hanging out with friends. Since then, this cafe had become a special place for them, and now she was afraid why Max had suggested this, but she had to say yes. Max, I'll see you there and please listen. I'm sorry and I love you. Max hung up. Camilla sat and cried, and the snake bit more and more. Camilla came to the cafe early. Max was not there yet. She ordered a glass of wine and sat there thinking about what a terrible person she was. Her first real sexual experiences were with big, strong football players in college. She played around in high school, but it took those college football players holding her down, making her feel helpless. When Max arrived, she thought she had overcome this need to feel helpless. Max was everything she needed, strong in bed, loving, a great father to the girls, a good provider. That would have been enough if it weren't for the plane ride back to Charlotte from the West Coast. Max was visiting some pharmaceutical company trying to sell a new drug, and she accompanied him for the weekend before his meetings began. Flying home alone on an overnight flight, she sat next to a large man, the coach of what turned out to be a local NFL team. They chatted, drank too much, and she fell asleep, with her head on his shoulder. She woke up with his hand between her legs, under her skirt. Now, thinking about that night, she knew she should have screamed, or at least pushed his hand away. But no, Camilla didn't do that. And the feeling of guilt? She didn't remember feeling guilty. Only relief that Max didn't return until later that week when she and her body had recovered. The pussy had a feeling of guilt. This coach only worked in Charlotte for 1 season, and Camille might have become a faithful wife again if he had not introduced her to a forward from the practice squad before leaving. Not a star, not even a newbie, but just as strong and dominant in bed as the coach was. Camilla was actually grateful when she was assigned. After some time, the guilt finally surfaced. She wanted to remain faithful to Max and broke up with her lover. Camille thought she was done with her cheating by the time their girls left for college. She loved Max dearly and enjoyed the extra time they had together when the girls were away. But the snake slithered in when Max did something nice for it. He told her it was time for her to get a new car. A luxury car that she should choose, and unfortunately she decided to go to the Mercedes dealership, where she met Franklin Thompson. He didn't sell her a Mercedes, but he pushed all the right buttons to get her into bed. And she knew it was wrong. Wrong. Also because Franklin wasn't that good in bed. She had gotten away with her previous affairs and thought the marriage was intact. But now she and Max loved each other more than ever, and she wanted to be faithful. This was the right thing. And not have sex with a big idiot. Letting Franklin spend the night in his marital bed would have been a terrible mistake, even if Max hadn't discovered them, but she had let him, and now she feared the terrible price she might have to pay. "Hello, Camilla." Camille looked up and saw Max standing there. He looked much older than he did before he flew to New York, and she knew it was her fault. The snake in her stomach continued to bite. "Hi, Max. Thank you for being here. I don't even know how to begin to say how sorry I am." "Can I ask a few questions?" he said, sitting down. "Max, please no. If we have any chance, questions and answers will simply kill that chance. Max, we should run away just for a few days to some island in the Caribbean, where we can be reunited, where we can hug each other, where—" "Camilla, please, you're delusional. If you can't answer my questions, I'll get up and leave. Now." The snake continued to bite, but Camille knew she had to endure the pain and let Max vent the way he wanted. Maybe, just maybe, he could come out the other side of his anger to some kind of reconciliation. "Okay, Max, ask me anything. Do you know what time I got home last night?" Strange question, she thought. No, not really. It had to be after she shut up. She knew what his next question would be, and it was, "And do you know what I saw when I got home?" "When I went upstairs to our bedroom. Or should I say, what used to be our bedroom?" "Yes, Max, I know what you must have seen. And I know it must have been one of the worst things you've ever seen in your entire life. And I know it's entirely my fault. Is that you saw this. And I am begging you to please listen to me. Max, I'm sorry. So sorry that I won't fight the divorce you want. If you want, shut up, Camilla. Next question. How many men have there been since we got married? If you're lying, if I think you're lying, I get up and leave." Camilla's first thought was to lie. The second thought was that lying was too risky. And the third thought was that the marriage was probably over anyway. 3. Max. 3 men whom I now regret having ever met. I think I can see in your eyes that our marriage is over, and I understand it. You deserve someone better than me. I'm willing to do almost anything to give us another chance, but I understand if you don't want anything to do with me anymore. Call the lawyer, Camilla. Tomorrow you will be served with divorce papers." Max got up and left. Camille sat there, too stunned to even cry at first. While she was thinking about what Max had just said, the snake in her stomach bit hard and she actually started crying. Max walked out of the cafe remembering how he and Camille first met there, decades ago, and wondering if this meeting would be the last time they ever had any kind of intimate conversation. Intimacy, he thought bitterly, must be the worst kind of intimacy, hearing your wife say that she had sex with other men, and to see her with that toad. Franklin. In their bed, in their fucking bed, sleeping, her snoring, for God's sake, how am I ever going to get over this? Perhaps he could handle 3 faceless men in the 20-odd years they had been together. Just maybe with some counseling and a lot of humiliation on her part, maybe. But he would never get over that scene in their bed. Their marriage was over. And sitting in that damn gold Mercedes, he finally cried. At some point, Max realized that it was already getting dark. He blew his nose, wiped his face, and thought about what Molly Thompson had said that morning, which now seemed like a year ago. She told him not to send her pictures of her husband sleeping with Camilla. She felt that it would be much more difficult to forgive if she were confronted with visual evidence. Max decided to call her, share this thought with her, and check the situation with Mercedes. "Hello," Molly answered the call. "Molly, this is Max Tronder, from this morning. I'm just calling to see how you're doing and what I should do with the car." "Max, thank you for calling. I seem to be holding on. You can keep the car for now. Franklin is in so much trouble that he won't need her for a while." "Trouble? I hope you didn't shoot him." "No, but he might prefer this option. He got arrested for trying to break into our house and apparently took a swing at one of the cops. You know, he's a big guy and the cop hit him with a stun gun. Then something happened while he was in prison. He doesn't want to talk about it, but I think he may have been attacked by another prisoner somehow. I wouldn't talk to him. And he ended up having to call his brother to post bail, and that means his whole family knows what's going on." Wow. Molly, I can't say I feel sorry for him, but I feel sorry for you. What I really want to say is that you made the absolutely right decision this morning not to look at the pictures of him cheating. If you have any chance of reconciling, these photos would make it a lot harder. Yeah, he finally came home a couple of hours ago, crying and telling me how sorry he was and begging me to let him stay, at least for now. You know, we have 2 little kids, so I'm going to try to figure this out. But life won't be easy for him. His own brother, who is a lawyer, told me that I should push for a prenuptial agreement, and he said he would help with that. Besides, I'm going to be in control of our finances at least for a while. Franklin will be on a fairly short leash, and I plan to tug his collar frequently. Keep it up, Molly. I wish you all the best. And when you need to return the car, just call me." They hung up and Max sat there somewhat jealous of Molly. Franklin may have learned. He was arrested and charged with assault for trying to attack a police officer after his jail experience. Could have terrified him a lot. Max wished so for Molly and their kids. He drove back to his accommodation. He needed to finish one more task before bed. Call his daughters Jane and Joan. "Hi, Dad," he thought Jane replied. They were twins, but they may have been identical. The sound was similar. They attended pricey college. The same was studied, nursing. At least they looked different close sisters but not twins. Max often said to himself that he liked that they were different. Their ganging up was excellent, and he felt it would be worse if two identical young women were pressing him to buy a car, stay out late, and ask for money to fly to Florida for spring break, which, "Daddy please," would be worse. He also stated privately that he liked spoiling them. "Janie, you guessed right. Naturally, the odds were 50/50. What's wrong? Tomorrow is Saturday, and I want to ask you and your sister to breakfast. Let's call it brunch, around 11. We went to the 4th Street Cafe. That suits me. Hold on," he heard something. Then she returned. "Joan is nice too. Can we?" 6 or 7 of their pals attended their previous brunch, so he interrupted her. "Let's, just 3 of us." "Okay, of course," Jane said. "But explain." Again, he interrupted her, not wanting to start a phone conversation, which was hard even in person. "I must run. See you at 11. Say I adore your sister and you. Bye." He hung up. He hoped she wouldn't contact Camilla but couldn't tell her. Then she would have called Camilla immediately. 11 tomorrow morning will come quickly. Camille cried heavily after Max left the cafe, leaving her with his admonition or curse to get a lawyer. She knew she had ruined everything, her life, marriage, and family. She knew her girls, parents, and friends would. No, she might lose Max and her home. Poor Max, finding her naked in their bed, possibly with that damn Franklin with a boner. Camille's weeping persisted as Max must have been nearly killed. She was finally invited to go to the ladies' room by the waiter. Camilla swallowed back tears and said no, thank you. She paid the payment and headed for her abandoned home. She found the improper amount of gin there. Too much to help her find Max, but not enough to pass out. She fell asleep after drinking it all, waiting for a miracle to bring Max back. Max was in the restaurant at 11 a.m. when his daughters arrived. He examined and approved the draft divorce petition early in the morning, then drove 2 hours from Charlotte to think out what to tell Jane and Joan. First, business as usual. Hugs and kisses. How's school? How's work? Ordered and eaten. Real discourse followed plate clearing. "We know something is wrong," Joan began. "You look a little sick. Are you here to tell us you have cancer or something? And if so, where's Mom?" "Girls, yes, I have really bad news, but nothing physical. No one is going to die and—" "It's Mom," Jane interrupted. "She did something terrible. Oh my God. Did she run off with one of her firm's lawyers? A young, strong body that Joni or I should be chasing." Both girls burst out laughing, taken aback by the absurdity of the idea, until they saw that their father was not laughing. "Dad, no, not Mom, no." Joan couldn't finish her fear out loud. "Girls, listen to me carefully. Yes, Mom changed. She cheated on me, but that doesn't mean she cheated on you girls." "Yes, that's right, Daddy," Joan said through tears. "If her cheating is destroying our family, then yes, she cheated on us just as much as she cheated on you." Both girls cried, and then Max started crying too. The girls stood up and tried to hug their dad and hug each other at the same time. "Dad, let's get out of here," Jane said. "There's a park about 2 blocks from here and we'll have more privacy there." People were staring a bit, so Max quickly paid the bill and they walked into the park, a girl on each side of him, all of them holding each other. "Tell us, Dad," Jane said after they found a bench to share. "We deserve to hear how bad it is." "You know she's right," Joan intervened. "Our maturity allows us to manage this." Max began, "I was thinking about what to tell you on the way here. Both of you are adults. You are right. Your mother betrayed us. My mother was in our bed with another man. I'm scared." She then revealed that numerous males preceded him. "Perhaps I'm still in shock, but I know she and I won't recover. I spoke to a divorce lawyer, and Mom is getting a petition today." More tears and stillness as they contemplated the news and their future. Whatever the situation, girls, prioritize yourself and studies. Enough for your Duke senior year. I may also be able to fund graduate school for you both. A quid pro quo exists. They regarded him. What he meant, "I'll pay for your college if you study hard and obtain high grades." Yes, Mom's actions make it hard to focus on school, but you informed me you're adults and mature, disciplined individuals can handle difficulties, right? They gazed, cried, and hugged him again. "Daddy, you're the best, and we won't disappoint you." Jane looked puzzled as Joan encouraged him. "Joan is right, Dad. We won't disappoint. What about you? Will you survive? What will you do?" A 2-hour trip can be thought-provoking. First, I will tell you that your words do not surprise me. I know you will keep doing well in school and make me proud. As for me, my mother beat me badly. I could crawl into a hole and suffer. Feel terrible for myself, reconcile with your mom. I realize this doesn't suit me. My entire adult life has been dedicated helping others. When I joined my grandparents' company, I cared for them. After they went, I looked after my sister's firm shares. I then looked after my mom. I took care of you females. This sounds like complaining. Actually, I'm not. Soon, the corporation will sell. My sisters will be freed from my care. Camilla went. I pledged to take care of you to assist you start adulthood. So what? My women have 2 home runs out of 3. No problem. I'm alone. And guess what? Betrayal and divorce are not the worst things in my life. They're an opportunity to start over. A new existence of single-person care. I'm fine. Dad, really? Joan said. If you mean what you say, that's terrific. Jane was less sure. Dad, what does it all mean? New life. For another drug company. You buying a farm? What? Great question, and I have a nice response. No details yet, but this new life will be physical. Run marathons, climb mountains, swim across the Atlantic, climb the Alps, go on safari. I'll do a million things. And guess what? I may meet a nice woman doing these things. And who knows? Damn it, Dad, this is amazing. Both girls looked at him with their mouths open. This was their father, not some enterprising stallion. Did you really come up with all this while driving here from Charlotte? Asked Jane. Well, yes, partly, but besides, I didn't sleep much, and different ideas were spinning in my head. I mean, I could start drinking and feeling sorry for myself, but instead, I'm going to make the best of this mess. Trust me, I'll be fine. Max left his girls with him more hugs and kisses and tears as he headed back to Charlotte, still in the gold Mercedes. As soon as Max left, the girls called their mother on the phone. Hello? A creaky voice answered the phone in the Tronders house. Joan put her phone on speaker. Mom, this is Joan and Jane. We had just had breakfast with Dad and he told us some terrible news. What did he say? Well, divorce was a terrible word, and the reason was your betrayal. Dad gave us a little more detail, but that's basically it. This is true. Oh girls, this is difficult. He and I have been married for a long time and this mistake. Yes, I made a big mistake. Well, more than one actually, but I'm sure we can get through it. I just need to give your father some time to Mom, Joan interrupted. Listen. Dad said divorce. He didn't talk about fixing the error. Mom, he was talking about cheating. Well, yes, technically he's right. But that doesn't mean we can't fix it. I told him I would do anything. Mom, it was Jane's turn to interrupt. I think you're delusional. He told us that he had already met with a divorce lawyer. He actually said there was no turning back for you too. Joan and I don't want to take sides, but you have to understand reality. Tormented breathing on the other end of the line. Joan and Jane looked at each other. Should they have gone to Charlotte? Finally, Camilla spoke, not much louder than a whisper. I know I screwed up and ruined my marriage. I think your father hates me and he's right. I've done disgusting things. He told me to hire a lawyer and he was right about that too. I'm sorry, girls. I know it's terrible for you too. Mom, don't worry about us, Joan said. Everything will be fine with us, and I know that Dad is doing everything in his power. You need to take care of yourself. Hiring a lawyer sounds like a good idea. Jane and I can go to Charlotte if you need it. Thank you, girls. This is nice. I'll be okay. I just need some time to get used to what I did. They hung up. Girls still had no idea what to do. Joan said it's humorous, but it's not. We're more concerned about Mom, and who started this situation, rather than Dad. They discussed it more and decided not to go home to let their parents fight without their girls. Camilla sat in her Charlotte at home, groggy from the gin she'd drunk the night before and upset after talking to her daughters. She had to get dressed and leave the house. Do something, she thought, as she considered buying more. Gin. The doorbell rang. Door opened by Camilla. Young woman stood at the threshold. It seemed like she was chewing gum. Can I help? Camilla asks. Yes, ma, I am. Are you Max Tronder's wife, Camilla? Yes, I am. Why inquire? Mom, you have been served, she said, handing Camille a folder of paperwork and taking photos. What? Camille asked as the woman returned to her car. Camille returned home and examined the mystery folder at the kitchen table. The first document, a divorce petition, nearly made her swoon. She remembered Max's last advice: get a lawyer. As she sat there looking at the kitchen she had cherished with Max, she knew her actions would end the wonderful days. Camelia was right. She and Max left following her treachery. Camilla reminisced 6 years later while watching Jane dance with her new husband in an elegant hotel ballroom. The sisters believed life was dreadful as teenagers. Too many activities, too much teenage angst because too many boys were mean, or, from Camille's perspective, too polite to the girls. Max was too busy with her assistant job, and lawyer being dull. Life was overwhelming then. But she missed it horribly. Her law firm job involved the same tedious paperwork. The dreamer brought Camilla wine. Camille gazed at her beau, the sweet middle-aged, paunchy, balding lawyer who had accompanied her to Janie's wedding and celebration. The bride is beautiful like her mother. Carl, you're kind, and thanks for the wine. His sweetness made her want to marry him if he was interested. Definitely not Max. She stared at Max across the room. Camilla felt Max looked like a bronze Greek god after his Nepal mountaineering excursion, tan, fit, and handsomer than she remembered. He laughed and smiled with Joan and her partner, holding hands with Max, a lovely athletic woman. Joan told her Max met the woman on another mountaineering expedition in South America, and they had been sailing, climbing, and traveling together for months. Just thinking about it made Camille queasy. Camilla, Carl sought her attention. Yes, Carl? Camilla, I suggest leaving. You did. Your job as mother of the bride, so drooling over your ex-husband isn't helping. I think this hurts our relationship with you. Carl, you're kind and right. Let me go say goodbye to my daughters and we'll be out of here. Camilla hugged and kissed her daughters, wished the newlyweds all the best, and as hard as it was for her, ignored Max and his too cute girlfriend. Max actually saw Camille as she left the hall and felt a slight pang of sadness for their old times together. While he was watching her, Joan asked him a question. Sorry, Joni, what were you saying? Remember that strange-looking gold Mercedes you were driving when you, Jane, and I had breakfast that morning when you came to visit us at Duke? What happened to that car? Ah, Joni. That's a whole story that I won't bore you with. Let me just say that I borrowed this weird gold Mercedes from a friend and ended up giving it back to her. I think she sold it. It was truly an unlucky car. And Max turned to his friend to talk about their next trip to the mountains. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story. Because this story is nothing compared to the next one.